Hey everyone, my name is Reggie and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you popular books that I really hated. I just want to give a quick disclaimer. You're probably going to roll your eyes at it, but it's important because I know someone's going to take offense to this. Just because I didn't like a book or your favorite characters or say like maybe this is a horrible book doesn't mean you're not allowed to like it. I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. We're all entitled to our own opinions. And that is what makes life interesting. These aren't in any particular order, but the first one I have to talk about today is the Selection series by Kira Cass. I read the original trilogy of this. This does have a spin-off duology. I wouldn't necessarily consider it a continuation of the series, though some people do. However, I would say that I've completed the original trilogy in its entirety. I have no intentions of reading the other two books in the series because I really hated the first three. Why I kept reading, I don't know. But I did! So if you don't know, the Selection series is about this girl named America who is from a poor class. There are class systems in her world. She is from one of the poorer classes, but she is still entered into a system to have a chance to compete for the prince's hand in marriage. She gets into this competition and then she has to compete for the prince's hand in marriage. For this, quite a few things led to me just really disliking this book. First, as I read these before, I really realized that books that center around romance just aren't my thing. A good romance in a book is not a bad thing, but like a book that revolves around romance, that's its crux, isn't typically my favorite thing. There are definitely exceptions to this rule, 100%, but it's just typically not my thing, and this is definitely a book that, because of that, a heavy emphasis on the romance just didn't mesh with me. Another is I found a lot of the side characters super obnoxious. I actually didn't mind our main character, America. Most people think she's super annoying. I thought she wasn't that bad, but these side characters were so obnoxious. I think there's a lot of girl hate and girl shaming in this book. I think you're supposed to get over that and there's an arc and progression, but it took so long to get there that I don't think it does service to female friendships. Additionally, the world building in this series is trash. There is a scene where the girls are learning about the history of the government and the way the things worked out, and this is supposedly like a dystopian world, and you get the dystopian and why things are the way they are when the girls are literally sitting in a classroom. How is that world building? I also think it was super obvious which of the two boys you were supposed to root for. If you're gonna do a love triangle, you might as well have it be a even toss-up. That way I can root for both parties. But no, it was just pretty heavy-handed which boy you're supposed to root for. What's the point of a love triangle if you're gonna do that? Next up on my list, I have Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Whew. I'll give this to Ready Player One. I did have to read this for school. This was a class assignment for me. So it's possible that the required reading, the psychological blocks we put up when we have to read a book may have prevented me from liking this as much as I could have. However, I think I actually was more generous because of the discussions we had in class than I would have been had I read this on my own. Personal takeaway, not sure if that's accurate. Haven't reread this, have no intentions on doing it. So the first thing is, to me, this book was boring. There was a lot of predictability in this book. The characters were just not that great. The things I liked about this book were that the idea of poverty was a thing. It was explored, it was discussed. That's something that's completely taken out of the movie, so I think the movie is worse. I thought when I was reading this, oh, this would make a great movie. It's very visual. I really disliked the movie as well. So there's that. I think there's a lot of misogyny, and I don't know, I get the point, I get the greater themes. I've never been a fan of video games, so it's very possible that my disconnect from the concepts people rave about have hindered my experience in this book, but it just clearly wasn't for me. Next up, we have another favorite amongst the booktubes. This is Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is another book that's a dystopian, but we don't get much details about why or how this dystopian world came to be, which is so obnoxious in my opinion. However, moving on from that, Juliet, our main character, has a superpower. She can kill someone by touch, and she doesn't know how to control that ability. She is, at the beginning of this book, let out of a prison that she's been in for a long time. I don't remember how many days. And she is just, not developed enough, and she doesn't have, communication skills because she's been locked up for so long. Totally fine, makes sense. The book is told in this stream of consciousness way, and with, things crossed out and stuff like that, because it's, her inner monologue, but her inner monologue is, different because she's been locked up and stuff. It's the way it's written is interesting, but leaves a lot to be desired. I did not like that. it often went on for too long, and I think their romance was super unhealthy and toxic, both of them in fact, because hello, another love triangle. I actually don't typically dislike love triangles, but I do when, again, you're slated to like one person in the love triangle more than the other. I will say that there is a time when you're supposed to like one and a time when you're supposed to like another, but I also think it's ridiculous when an author has one character fall on a sword, essentially for like, oh, they did something so jacked up, we can't like forgive them, so of course you're gonna like the other guy. I don't know. Anyways, moving on. I also thought Juliet was supposed to be this strong female kick-butt character. I found her to be very weak and annoying and a person who complains a lot. I mean, she definitely goes through one heck of a character arc. This is another one where I read every book in the series. I think the last book in this trilogy is the strongest. Actually, this is another book that continues on past the trilogy. Haven't read the fourth book. Again, have no plans on doing so. But I think the third book in this trilogy is the strongest because we finally get that character that has been promised, that has been hinted at the entire trilogy. Juliet has an amazing arc, but for me it was too little too late, and I still kind of hate the series, especially the first book. Next up, we have Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. This is a book that is about a young boy who discovers this like world, this like paranormal entity, this thing that happens. I don't know how best to describe it. Basically, there is these kids who are stuck in a loop. They live the same day over and over again, and so they're kind of stuck in this like reality of the day looping. Our main character finds out he's a part of this world. Essentially, he has the ability to go into the loop, and adventure ensues. However, super boring. The draw of this book is that it is told and inspired by a series of images that the author found at, I believe, like a garage sale or something like that. However, I think that gimmick is so clear that this is why the story is being told, not because like this is a story that needs to be told, but because like, oh, this is what could come about these pictures. I think it's super gimmicky and it didn't work for me. It was super boring and I didn't read past the first book. However, I know this is so many people's favorite books, so like, I don't know what I missed, but I was super just bored the entire way through, and I think the movie adaptation of this was better than the book, and the adaptation was still bad. Ooh, number 5 on this list is the one that's gonna get me heated. Let's see if I can not talk about this for so long because I will get angry. This is Everything, Everything by Nicole Hagan. If you've been on my channel for a bit, you probably have heard me talk about this book. When I first read it, I wanted to throw it across the room. I did own it. I unhauled that so fast. I don't unhaul, at the time I didn't unhaul books. I unhaul books all the time now. But at the time I wasn't like a big unhauler. And I was like, okay, we're getting rid of books because this is gonna be on the top of the pile. Sorry. So actually, funny story is I was enjoying my time reading this book. I was having so much fun. This is a book about a girl who has an autoimmune deficiency disorder. Basically, she's the bubble boy idea of an illness. So she cannot leave her house because any like germs or toxins in the air could possibly compromise her immune system and kill her. The book is told through our main character's perspective in like journal entries, emails, drawings, all this kind of stuff. It is a huge heavy romance. The girl finds a boy living across the street and like starts communicating with him through the window, and then they like email and stuff, blah blah blah. The extra parts of this book, like emails, etc., are all super cute, well done. I was super engaged in this book, like 75% through. There was a point where I was like halfway through and I was like, it's not gonna be this, is it? It couldn't be this. There's no way they would do that. And so first of all, they did do that. I dismissed my like theory halfway through because I thought it was so damaging and so bad that no author in their right mind would do that and no publisher would publish that, but they did. So I'm not gonna tell you how this book ends in case you do wanna read it or, you know, whatever. I'm not discouraging you from reading this book because out of all of them, for the most part, it was the most enjoyable until the end, which whew. See, I told you I would get heated. This book takes an idea of representation and strips it from our main character. It takes it away from people who may have been reading this book thinking they were seeing themselves in this character. And it does it in a damaging way that's also harmful to people who are going through grief and have mental illness. And I think it's so bad and I hate it. I hate the ending so much. It makes me so angry. The next one I think you've all probably been waiting for because I've talked about how much I dislike this book before on my channel kind of recently. And that's A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Oh boy, I hated this book. Read the second one, was told it would be much better. It was better by the smallest margin. Hello, Rysand is still a problematic love interest. If you don't see that, I don't understand. This is another thing like with Shatter Me where you had a character that people liked and then it was like flipped in the next book, but we're not talking about A Court of Mist and Fury because we're talking about Court of Thorns and Roses, which was my first 1-star rating ever. I've like oftentimes retroactively gone back and been like, I was being too nice. I'm gonna bump this 2 down to a 1, but I don't think I've ever finished a book and been like, oh, this is a 1-star until this one. The relationship is super problematic, damaging, disgusting, unhealthy. It's so gross. Basically, this is a Beauty and Beast retelling set in like a fae world. This girl is captured after she kills a fae unknowingly. He was disguised as like a deer or something. She is taken to the fae world to pay for her debt. And then she has like the Stockholm Syndrome relationship with the fae that takes her in. And it's weird. It's creepy. It's not okay. He doesn't treat her great. He treats her worse in the second book. And she gets a new love interest who's also awful. But you know, people love these books because Sarah J. Maas wrote them. I'm not bitter. Just confused. Like probably the one I'm gonna get the most shit for because so many people love this book. It's Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. Here's the thing, I thought I was gonna love this book. I was so stoked to be like, this is gonna be the Cassandra Clare book that I get 5 out of 5 stars to. I read her books in publication order. So, you know, the first 3 of the Mortal Instruments, then alternating back and forth for Infernal Devices and Mortal Instruments. Finished all Mortal Instruments. Finished all of Infernal Devices, have even read the first 2 books in the next series, whatever it's called, Dark Artifices series. So I've read way more Cassandra Clare books than I care to admit, considering I've never given a book of hers more than 4 stars, and I've only given one of her books 4 stars. I read Clockwork Angel, and I was like, yes, this is good. This is way better than the Mortal Instruments. This is still the, like, mythical and interesting Shadowhunter world, but with characters I actually care about in a setting that seems kind of cool. Alright, I'm on board. Clockwork Prince happens, and while I didn't like some of the tropes that were used in this, I'm like, I like how you did that trope. I'm in. I like how you did that other trope. I'm still in. I'm interested. I'm invested. This is great. This is the first Cassandra Clare book I've given 4 out of 5 stars to. Then I read Clockwork Princess, and 1, it was boring, 2, the ending. Oh, that epilogue. Everyone loves that epilogue. Everyone cries over the epilogue. They talk about how it's like none other. It's the romance for all. I feel like it's cheating, it's a cop-out, and I can't believe Cassandra Clare wrote that and got away with it. I want consequences in my books. This book gave everyone a happy ending, and like that's a weird thing to complain about, but it felt like too happy. Where are the consequences? And don't tell me like the thing that happened is the consequence, because it just gets undone later. The last book I have to talk to you about today is another one that could get me heated, but I'm going to try to keep it cool. And this is One of Us is Lying by Karen McCannis. This was actually another one that was like going good. Like everything. I thought this was going to be fine. Happy times, interesting somewhat Breakfast Club type thriller, concept super on point, super into it, and then we got so many problematic aspects after problematic aspects, and I was so not here for it. So we have the outing of an LGBT plus character, we have a lot of girl shaming, and best of all, we have the misuse of a mental illness to delegitimize like everything that's happened in this book, and I'm so not here for it. So that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that I got so angry in this video, and if any of these books are your favorites, do not worry. I know there are books that I love that have problematic aspects to it. There are books that I love that people just hate or didn't like, and I understand that like moment of like, oh, how could you not like this book? But also, as a reviewer, I think it's just as important to talk about the books we don't like as it is to talk about the books we do like, because I think that our opinions on these matter, and they help you decide what kind of book reviewer is best for you, what like book tastes mesh with yours. So I hope that is something that you took away from this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would absolutely love that, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!